Grand Theft Auto is one of the most beloved franchises of all time, starting from its early roots in the late 90s to becoming the highest grossing piece of media ever created with Grand Theft Auto 5 in recent years. However, today we are going to look at a game that was created in under a year, all the way back in 2002, my personal favorite game of all time, Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Grand Theft Auto Vice City was the second installment of the series that featured the revolutionary 3D open world, and Vice City did well to capitalize on the huge and mainstream success of Grand Theft Auto 3 that came out a year earlier. A lot of people had nostalgia for Vice City and its infamous missions. This in turn led to it becoming the most popular speedrun in the Grand Theft Auto franchise. Right now, Vice City is 24th out of 15,000 games on speedrun.com, rated by most active players, and throughout the years it has always been a top contender. The community surrounding Vice City speedruns is colossal, with runners, rooters, glitch hunters, and even a team of people dedicated to reading the game's code to document knowledge and find insane strats. This has turned Vice City from a quick nostalgia trip into one of the most interesting speedruns of all time. Before we jump in, I'd like to give thanks to Adisic, who has maintained a world record progression spreadsheet that allowed me to skip most of the research needed for this video, and of course to the Vice City community for making the game and the speedrun what it is today. We start off our journey all the way back in 2008, with the first known recorded speedrun of Grand Theft Auto Vice City by Daniel Burns, or Cannibal K9. Cannibal K9 is known as the grandfather of Vice City speedruns, due to how early he was pioneering strategies when nobody else was. His run from the 7th of April was already under 2 hours with a time of 1:54:58. This run was completed in the SDA or Speed Demos archive days, meaning that the rule set was very different when compared to today. Most SDA runs were done in segments in order to achieve the best possible time without having to retry the whole game to get it right. Daniel's run, however, was completed in a single segment, meaning the entire game was completed in one sitting with no interruptions, something that is commonplace in modern speedrunning. This run has a lot of interesting strategies, but also some questionable ones. Even starting from the get-go, Daniel takes the Admiral at the start of the game, even though the Faggio right next to it has better acceleration and top speed. He also spent several minutes at one point of the run towards the end, driving up and down the main strip on the Western Island in order to find a car he needed for Sunshine Autos, which is an asset in the game that has you collect cars and deliver them to a nearby garage. However, Daniel also uses some smart strategies in the early game and during some of the later tougher missions, such as using guns found around the map to quickly destroy vehicles during Jury Fury and Riot instead of using the melee weapons the game provides you. Also, Daniel uses helicopters in Death Row and Copland in order to escape the scrapyard and avoid having to deal with the FBI at the end of the mission respectively. Around halfway into the game after completing the bar brawl mission, Daniel goes to complete one of the most important missions in Vice City at the time, Cone Crazy. In Vice City you need a bunch of money in order to buy properties, and beating your personal best time in Cone Crazy was the best way to earn money, as it doubled the payout of completing the minigame each time. Daniel deliberately sets a mediocre time on the first round and then beats it over and over to make enough money in order to buy all the properties he needs to beat the game. After completing the other assets and finally getting the cars that he needed for Sunshine Autos, Daniel was able to unlock the final chain of missions and complete the game. This now set the precedent for all future Vice City speedruns, but this record actually stood for over 4 years until the next runner came along and ended up beating it. That runner's name was Lots of S. Fast forward all the way to 2012. It's been over 4 years since Cannibal K9's SDA run, and that run was still the sole example of Vice City speedrunning until October 15th, when Lots of S recorded a run with a time of 1:49:22. Unfortunately, this video is unavailable due to copyright reasons, but thankfully S is still in the community today, so I was able to reach out and discuss the run with him. The two main time saves he mentioned when we talked were in the late game, the first one being actually destroying the taxis during Makkebakke, instead of just waiting for the timer to run out. Also avoiding the 2-minute wait of trying to get an Esperanto for Sunshine Autos by better foresight and perhaps a teeny amount of luck, as you do need reasonable luck in order to find the cars you need. He also mentioned a couple of things in the second paragraph that weren't actually improvements at all that he did in his run. For example, shooting at Lance in the final mission with a rocket launcher isn't actually faster because the whole mission is on a timer, so the time that he spent getting the rocket launcher actually lost him time over Daniel Burns. With those time saves and better execution all around, S was able to get the first sub 150 of Vice City and beat Cannibal K9 by over 5 minutes. S's record stood until February 28, 2013, where a Frenchman named Tier recorded several Vice City speedruns, his first being a 1:48:30, which is almost a minute improvement over S. And by the time March 13 had come around, Tier had beaten his PB twice more and now had a PB of 1:42:27. Thankfully these videos do exist, but as you can see they're a little scuffed, so apologies for that. A main difference in Tier's runs compared to Cannibal K9 was that he did Cone Crazy right after Back Alley Brawl, which is the second mission in the game, instead of halfway through. These videos are where we also start to see the progression of a strat during the mission, The Chase. In this mission you must chase a target in a vehicle as he drives very slowly all around the eastern island. However, Tier uses some smart strategies to throw their vehicle into the ocean, forcing their AI to take the much faster Infernus during the chase and saving a bunch of time. What you can see on your screen now is a full write-up that Tier was nice enough to do for me once I contacted him about this video. Essentially, the way the whole strat started off was a random person in S's chat while he was practicing one time mentioning about letting the guy in the BF drive you to the destination. This then almost seemed to cause a chain reaction of testing and theory crafting by people like Tier, Possessed Warrior, S, Chicken Bow, and Bubble Bobbler in order to find the quickest way to get the passenger for the chase, who is your target, to the destination without having to go through the full chase sequence. So as you saw in the video, the strat that Tier used actually ended up becoming using different vehicles such as the Infernus or even police cars in order to force the passenger to steal it instead of the BF, which is destroyed, and drive to the destination. That then developed once more to what you see today in the more common chase strats, which is to simply use the BF, block the driver's side door, and then use the BF to drive the passenger to his destination. 28 days after Tier's 1:42 on the 10th of April, a Canadian named Possessed Warrior came along and got a 1:41:10 in Vice City, improving Tier's record by over a minute. And then Tier took the record back on the same day with a 1:40:29. Although Possessed Warrior's record was short-lived, it still holds a lot of historical significance, as it is the first record to showcase one of the most infamous tricks in Vice City, the gate zip. Back then, there were very few glitches in Vice City, and most of it was just smart strategies or clever use of game mechanics. This zip doesn't even save that much time, but Possessed Warrior's new finding looked very flashy for its time. How it works is that Tommy is pushed out of bounds, and the game has specific safe zones where it will place Tommy should he fall out of bounds. Conveniently, the zone here is on the other side of the gate, meaning that you can access Starfish Island early without taking the phone call. 4 days later, Tier broke his own record again for the final time with the first sub 140 in GTA Vice City, a 1:38:54. That record stood for yet another month until May 13th, where we are introduced to two new Vice City titans, Adam AK and Fatska. Adam's first ever Vice City record was just ever so slightly better than Tier's, and only beat him by a single second. This record lasted for one whole day until Fatska made his mark on the scene. Fatska's first record saw the first route change since Tier's entire endgame reroute months prior. After the fastest boat, instead of staying on Starfish Island and completing the next Diaz mission, Supply and Demand, Fatska showcased stealing the boat from Diaz and taking it straight to Colonel Cortez to complete his mission instead. He then went back to Starfish and completed Supply and Demand as normal. This reroute of the mid-game and better overall play allowed Fatska to take the world record from Adam with a 1:38:01.
Hit him, boys, he never understood a thing.
And that's it. Oh my god. This chat looks awesome, guys. You are
Tommy?
awesome, guys.
Oh my god, Tommy,
I'm not even
what
kidding.
happened?
Adam would strike back, however, with a 1:37:29. Unfortunately, no video of this run exists anymore. But again, Fatska left no time at all before getting the world record back. That very same day as Adam got his 1:37, on June 20th, Fatska got himself a 1:36:05. This 1:36:05 is the first run still available today that uses a very common glitch we all take for granted, mainly glitching calls. Glitching calls by aiming with an aimable weapon such as a rifle, allows you to sprint, etc. during phone calls, allowing for much more flexible phone call routing. As you can see by the video, it's very much in its infancy at this time, meaning the phone calls were still taken in non-optimal locations. However, the discovery of this glitch would open a lot of doors for potential routing in the future. Fatska continued playing in hopes for a lower 1-3x time, then on July 25th, it all came together.
Get him, boys, he never understood a thing.
That is amazing. That is actually amazing. Fuck! Yeah! Thank you guys. Wow. Wow, I didn't even think that was possible. I didn't even think that was actually possible.
So you may be now asking yourself, what happened for Fatska to destroy his own world record by over 3 minutes? Was it a new discovery or something along those lines? The answer is no. Besides the phone call glitching we'd mentioned before, there weren't any revolutionary strats here. The time save was again thanks to the non-linearity of Sunshine Autos and the Vice City endgame. Let's jump into a bit more detail about this, because this has been attributed to big time saves over the early days of Vice City speedrunning. One of the assets you complete in Vice City speedruns is SSA, or Sunshine Autos, a car collection business where in order to complete the asset, you must collect a number of cars: a Rancher, a Landstalker, a Stallion, an Idaho, a Blister Compact, and an Esperanto. Only 2 of these 6 cars have fixed spawns, meaning that you can grab them at any time, but these are quite far away from the SSA garage. This means that essentially you must constantly be on the lookout during runs for these cars to spawn in random traffic, and hope that they are in convenient locations to store them for the asset. This look factor is what makes the endgame non-linear in Vice City speedruns, so it was all about micromanaging your mission order and routing on the fly based on the cards you had been dealt. In the 132, Fatska started off really strong by getting a Rancher to spawn during one of the taxi missions VIP, which meant that he could keep it and deliver it later with minimal time loss. After delivering the Rancher, he heads north towards the Cuban area. It is quite common for some of the SSA cars such as the Idaho and Stallion to spawn in this area. There he finds a Blister, but it's in quite a non-optimal location. He takes it, and on the way back to SSA, he then gets a very nice Stallion spawn right outside the garage. As he delivers both the Blister and the Stallion, Fatska once again gets a subpar Idaho spawn. You may now be thinking to yourself that this is now considered an average at best SSA, right? And you'd be right so far, due to the non-optimal locations of the 2 cars we mentioned before. Well, this is where it turns on its head completely. The Landstalker and Esperanto are the 2 cars he has left, and they are commonly found on places like the southern bridge to the eastern island, meaning that sometimes you can be travelling quite a distance to find one unless you get very lucky. As Fatska is about to start the search for the final 2 cars, both the Landstalker and the Esperanto appear right outside the garage back to back. This turned the tables completely, and now SSA was completed so early in the run, he could focus on just steamrolling through the missions as fast as he could. Now we are introduced to yet another VC titan known as Raktrot. Raktrot within a few months has beaten Fatska, PB'd several times all the way down to a 130.24. Considering how Fatska said he didn't even think a 132 was possible, how did Raktrot pull this off? Well, aside from being an all-around beast at the game, it was once again thanks to SSA. Raktrot decided to make the non-linear section linear, and it worked. Right after VIP, he would go straight to the Cuban area and manipulate traffic to spawn both a Stallion and an Idaho insanely quickly. From there he would deliver them and manage to sneak himself 2 quite lucky spawns outside SSA for the Rancher and Esperanto. This was only part luck however, and also part clever manipulation, as he started using the replay system to re-roll the traffic generation to get the cars that he wanted. He also used glitch calls much more frequently, routed them optimally to avoid just emptying your call queue slowly during SSA, turning this entire luck-based section, quote unquote, into a simple linear piece of traffic manipulation. And this allowed Raktrot to bring Vice City all the way from a seemingly amazing 132 to almost sub 130 within no time at all. This record stood for just over 2 months, into the end of 2013, before on February 25th, a runner named Moon, I'm going to say Moon because I asked how to pronounce the second part of their name, and I asked 3 different runners, and they all gave me different answers, so Moon it is, got onto a run that was not only about to beat Raktrot, but also was on pace to being the first sub 130 in Vice City history.
Oh, come on, get the fuck out of my way! fuck's sake! I think those last collectors cost me the sub 130. Ah, no! No! 2 seconds! 2 fucking seconds! No!
Unfortunately, due to the last set of collectors that he had to kill taking longer than usual and getting stuck on that perennial after the mission, he just missed out on the sub 130. Bear in mind this is still using the old timing. The race for sub 130 was on, and on March 14th, we got this.
Get 'em, boys. He never understood a thing.
Raktrot had done it again and achieved the first ever sub 30 in Vice City. From here there was a lot of trading records between Raktrot himself, Moon, Aces High, and Phil. Unfortunately, a lot of these videos are lost to the void of time, but I will throw them up on screen for the sake of documenting them regardless. Feel free to pause the video now to read the times, but we will be moving on to a new era. This is when Vice City changed forever. On August 5th, 2014, a Redditor named Bastant2 posted a thread on the Speedrunning Reddit asking if this glitch he'd recently found in Vice City was already known, or if it even had any uses. What he didn't know was that this discovery was about to destroy Vice City, and open the door for over half an hour to be taking off the world record in the coming years. This glitch involved the use of the replay system to buy assets while inside of a replay. This would let you buy the asset, but the game wouldn't take any money away from you. This was already huge within itself, as it meant that doing cone crazy to farm money at the start of the run was now obsolete, to the relief of many VC runners. You can even see in the thread that several recognizable community members had commended Bastant2 for this insane discovery, such as Adam AK, KZFru, and MHMD. As you can imagine, this huge time save potential meant another race was on for the first person to achieve a new world record with skipping cone crazy entirely. And who else but Raktrot himself to not only do this, but take the record all the way down to a 1:23:14 by August 9th. However, this is where once again Raktrot's domination would be interrupted by the next entry of developments coming from Bastant's replay discovery, as what come next is the first ever set of records with mission duplication, or duping. Mission duping blew Vice City out of the water and absolutely destroyed it from the inside out. Within the next week, the world record was traded a lot between Eidgod, who achieved the first world record with duping on August 11th with a 1:20:03, Moon, MHMD, and Phil. By the time Phil had got the record on August 18th, he'd taken it all the way down to a 1:03:17. So what exactly happened in that week? Let's take a look. First, you need to understand what the game requires of you in order to finish it. The second half of Vice City requires you to build an empire, and take over businesses in order to unlock the final 2 missions in the game, Cap the Collector, and Keep Your Friends Close. In order to unlock this final set of missions, you must complete 7 assets around the game, 2 of them being mandatory. The mandatory ones are the Vassetti Estate, which requires completing Copland, and the Printworks, which involves completing Hit the Courier. You must then complete 5 other assets, and which ones you pick will completely up to you. Until now, all the speedruns of this game simply pick the 5 quickest assets to complete, but this was all about to change. It was quickly discovered that the game doesn't actually check how many unique assets you've completed, but instead uses a counter that increases by 1 every time you complete an asset. This means that if you duplicate, say Hit the Courier, and complete it twice, you would then increase the counter by 2 instead of 1, skipping 1 required asset. Runners quickly figured out that they could dupe Hit the Courier 5 times in order to increase the asset counter by 5, and then complete the Boatyard. The reason you complete the Boatyard is, instead of doing another Hit the Courier dupe, is because you needed an asset that wasn't the printworks or Vasetti estates for Cat the Collector. Otherwise the mission would instantly fail, as they have no assets to tax. The way to duplicate Hit the Courier several times was rather primitive at the time, and involved making a replay over a rampage, starting the mission and rampage at the same time, letting the rampage expire, and then repeating this until you had Hit the Courier duped the correct number of times. This was obviously very slow, as you needed to wait 2 minutes for the rampage to expire each time you duped the mission. However, as more and more theories were created, a method was discovered that involved skipping this wait entirely. I'm not going to discuss the technicalities of this method, as they are very confusing if you don't know much about Vice City speedruns, and I imagine this is already getting fairly confusing as it is. KZ3 has made a very good video that documents this entirely, and if I remember, I'll leave it in the description. All you need to know for now is that instead of waiting 2 minutes every single time you dupe the mission, you could wait for a few minutes at the start, then make the replay and reload a save. This would put you in the past and allow you to instantly fail the rampage with the press of a button. This skipped the 2 minute waiting time for each dupe. And while it may seem slow to wait, for example, 5 minutes right at the start, the fact that you only had to do it once rather than 4 or 5 times actually made it significantly faster than waiting 2 minutes for every single dupe. So now, not only is there a way to skip all the other assets in the game except the 2 that are mandatory and Boatyard, but now there is also a way to remove the long setup required in order to do this. This is what broke Vice City and turned it into from a 1 hour and 20 minute speedrun to almost sub 1 hour within a week. Once again, we're going to quickly document a bunch of world record trays here, as a lot of them don't have videos, and they were all so quick as the time went down to close to the 1 hour mark, that covering them all separately would make this video 4 hours long. On September 12th, 2014, a huge milestone was reached.
Get 'em, boys. You never understood a thing.
Yes!
Unfortunately, that's as far as the highlight goes in terms of reaction. But this was huge. Vice City completed in under an hour for the first time by Phil himself. No more did people have to watch Cone Crazy resets, no more did runners have to deal with getting lucky during SSA. This was all now a 1 hour speedrun, and pretty much purely execution based. The question now on everyone's mind was, how far can the game go? Phil's run was clean. How long until a new discovery was found? Once again, after Phil got sub 1 hour, the world record was traded back and forth between him and Raktrot all the way into 2015. Raktrot himself got his first sub 1 on September 20th, so just 8 days after the first sub 1 was completed. Phil lowered the record a number of times, all the way down to a 57.48 by the time January 27, 2015 rolled around. This record stood for over 2 months, the first time this had happened since Raktrot's 131.33 from 2013. However, on April 14th, 2015, we saw the return of MHMD and a whole new discovery. All the runs we've mentioned so far have been done on the international version of the game. This can be found on Steam or by any other retail providers very easily. What you may not know about Vice City, however, is that there are many different versions of the game. Back when the game was released, the Haitian community criticized Vice City for how they were depicted in the game, even going as far as to have large protests. Rockstar was threatened with legal action and subsequently removed offensive statements from future copies of the game, creating what we shall call Haitian-friendly versions of the game. This may not seem relevant to speedrunning at all, and it really isn't. However, these modified releases of the game have a distinct difference from their international counterparts, a different SCM. Now, what is an SCM? It's basically a file that holds the script code for Vice City, which is then interpreted by the game's exe. Now, to avoid the boring technicalities again, I won't be going into too much detail here, but basically what you need to know is that the re-releases of the game have new SCMs, as you can see on your screen by the different file sizes. This means that due to the new script the re-release possesses, new glitches could be possible on these versions specifically. A community member named Patrick was messing around with one such re-release, specifically the German green pepper version, and needed a vehicle while on the Hit the Courier mission. If you remember before, when we discussed the history of mission duping being found, this is possible by tricking the game into thinking that you're not on a mission when you really are. At this specific point in time, Patrick had tricked the game into thinking he wasn't on any mission, while Hit the Courier was still active. This would not only allow him to dupe hit the courier, if he wished, but also start any other mission in the game. The issue with this is that it would usually crash your game. A few small skips had been found by chaining missions together, but it didn't seem that anything big would come of it. Or so we thought. Patrick grabbed the nearest vehicle to him while he was testing, which happened to be the ice cream van at the Cherry Poppers factory. Those of you who have played Vice City may know that this will then start the distribution mission, where you must deliver 50 ice creams to complete the asset. This was supposed to crash Patrick's game, as he was running 2 mission scripts at the same time, but it didn't. Instead, it passed the entire mission entirely. This was beyond bizarre, and was the first of many of what we now call instapasses in Vice City, found completely by accident. There are several versions of the game that have this new script, including the aforementioned green pepper, Japanese, and Australian versions. MHMD acquired a Japanese copy of the game, and the community quickly got to work to see what else was possible with this newfound knowledge. MHMD at this point in time actually got what would have been the world record while playing on a green pepper version with an international EXE. This is why we have the rule today that states that files belonging to different versions of the games may not be mixed, in order to avoid this in the future. MHMD's first official world record using the Japanese re-release actually still used the hit the courier duping method seen in international runs, the only difference at the time being that you would instapass cherry poppers instead of doing the boatyard, which saved a couple of minutes. However, as we mentioned before, when starting Cap the Collector, the mission will fail if they have no less assets left to tax. This was a problem as the collectors would reach cherry poppers in the cutscene as it is much closer to their starting point than the boatyard, meaning that you would fail the mission before you had a chance to kill them. However, by some miracle and reasons still unknown to this day, as long as the collectors do not collide with traffic or anything of the sort, they will get stuck at the Cherry Poppers ice cream factory, allowing you to kill them and the mission to continue. This run of pure fortune allowed Cherry Poppers instapassing to become the next big thing in Vice City speedrunning. Before we get into that though, let's meet our next VC titan, KZ Fru. One day after MHMD got his first Japanese version world record, KZ Fru had this to say.
Get him, boys. He never understood a thing.
Woo!
Oh my God, Tommy, what happened?
What does it look like?
It looks like you ruined your suit, and Tommy, that was a beautiful suit. Tommy, what on earth happened?
I did it. Had a disagreement with a business associate. You know how it is.
Tommy, I have a disagreement. I send them an angry letter. Maybe I pee in their mailbox. I don't start World War III. You know, maybe you should speak to my shrink.
That stupid prick.
Tommy, I never...
From there, strategies were quickly discovered for chaining Cherry Poppers instapasses together, meaning you could skip the long setup required to dupe hit the courier entirely. The first known available world record for this was MHMD's 5532 from May 2nd, 2015. Now again, from the Japanese discovery to chaining Cherry Poppers instances all the way into mid-June 2016, there are an awful lot of world records traded due to the new discoveries. These usually didn't last more than a few days. At this point, MHMD had the world record in Vice City any% for 9 months, and it looks like nobody was about to stop him with his almost perfect 5301. However, this is when the final nail in the coffin came for killing any% in Vice City.
Tommy. There we go. Oh! Oh my God! No way! Holy shit! Oh my God! Holy fuck!
Get him, boys. He never understood a thing.
Oh my God, dude. What the fuck just happened?
Tommy? Oh my God, Tommy, what happened?
What does it look like?
It looks like you ruined your suit, and Tommy, that was a beautiful
Oh
suit.
my God,
Tommy,
dude.
what on earth happened?
Had a
I was just
disagreement
gonna
with a
be-
business associate.
Shit,
You
man.
know how it is.
Tommy, I have
was
a
just gonna
disagreement.
meme.
I send them an angry letter. Maybe I pee in their mailbox. I don't
I'll time it
start
on
World
stream.
War III.
I'll time it
You know,
on
maybe you
stream.
should speak to my shrink.
That stupid prick Lance.
Tommy, I never liked that guy, okay? He's neurotic, he's
What the
insecure,
fuck just
he's
happened?
self-centered. The guy's an asshole. I'm glad you took him out.
I don't think we're gonna be getting any more heat
That
from
is
up
world
north
record.
either.
Buffalo Bills, that is world
'Cause there
record.
ain't no up north anymore.
I don't know the time, but it's world
all
record
down south
because it's
now.
world record by like
Wait,
20 minutes.
does that mean what I think it means? Tommy,
I need to time it
What
though.
do you think it means?
That we're in charge. I mean that you're in charge.
Wins improvement
Oh,
attempts.
Tommy!
I don't
You
know.
know, Ken,
I didn't plan for
I
this
think
to
this
happen.
could
I
be the
didn't
beginning
think I
of a
would get
beautiful
it.
business
I didn't
relationship.
expect getting it at
After
all.
all, you're a conniving, backstabbing, two-bit thief.
I was just like, okay, I'll
and I'm
try
a
this
convicted
out, and it.
psychotic killer and drug
I-
dealer.
I know. Ain't it just beautiful?
That's why I screamed when it happened. I was like, what the fuck? Oh my god. GG. What the fuck just happened?
What the fuck just happened was probably everyone's response at that time. This nail is known as SSU. Now, as most stuff we've covered recently, SSU is extremely technical and complicated, so I'm going to explain it in a deliberate, basic manner. If you wish to learn more and read a full explanation written by the experts, you can find it in the description. SSU is very similar to a wrong warp that you may have seen in games such as Ocarina of Time, in the sense that you are doing seemingly random actions to manipulate the game and glitching right to the end of the game from the very start. After doing this particular setup required for any percent runs, one of three things can happen. The first, and the most likely by a country mile, is that your game will crash. The second is that you will unlock a mission, such as Cap the Collectors, or Keep Your Friends Close. The third is that you will instantly start the aforementioned missions, which is slightly faster than the second variant. In this video, KZ3 was just messing around testing the newly found SSU, but actually managed to unlock the final mission in the game, and this allowed Fru to beat MHMD's world record by almost 15 minutes in a completely legitimate any percent speedrun. This is where we reach a fork in the road, as a new category was soon created called any percent no-SSU, as many runners believed that any percent was no longer fun due to this very annoying and precise glitch that skipped the entire game. Any percent was still seeing progression, which we will soon cover, but I will also talk about any percent no-SSU briefly before we get back into any percent. My reasons for doing it in this order is that any percent no-SSU has not seen any major time saves or discoveries since Cherry Popper's chaining was implemented. All subsequent any percent no-SSU world records have simply been minor time saves and people simply getting better and better at the game. Within no-SSU, the world record was traded a lot once again with a lot of small time saves throughout 2017 and 18 by Guy With, Rock24, and Marushko, three brand new titans that you haven't seen yet, but you'll definitely remember. You might notice here that there was a three-way tie at one point for the world record in late 2018. Let's take a look at that. Marushko had achieved a 51.14 on November 23rd, and 2 weeks later Guywood tied that very same record. On the same day that Guywood tied Marushko, Rock got on a run that was about to beat both of them.
Get him, boys. He never understood a thing.
There we go.
Tommy?
Rock made the decision to deliberately pause his game in order to, instead of getting a world record, to make the three-way tie. His reason for this isn't malicious, it was more that a small time save has been found that had saved about 20 seconds, and everyone was trying to get the first ever sub 51. Rock deliberately tied the world record because it wasn't a sub 51 run anyway, and he didn't really care about the run itself. Both Marushko and Rock got their 50-minute times, or first sub 51s, within the next couple of days, and then on December 27th, Marushko got this time. And that right now is where the record stands for any percent no-SSU. but we're not quite finished because we need to go back to any percent. As a quick reminder as to where we'd left off, KZ had just completed the first ever any percent with SSU run and had beaten MHMD's no-SSU run by almost 15 minutes. As you can imagine, due to this new discovery, KZ world record does not last very long at all, and the world record was passed around very quickly, and within 2 weeks of KZ 3820, the world record had gone all the way down to a 1221 as the strat became more refined. We can also see during this time that there were a couple of new faces in the world record scramble, so to speak, such as Adisic, Powdernet and Menno. While the record passings were short and sweet, they still managed to etch their name at the time in Vice City history. It seemed that the 12-minute mark was where Vice City would finally be laid to rest, due to how optimized the category was and how horrible it was to grind. That was until June 2017 when the final big discovery in Vice City was found. For any percent runs, you had to dupe a mission a specific number of times in order to have a certain number of scripts running. At the time of the 12-minute any percent world record, runners just mass duped the party as it was convenient and easy to do. However, in 2017 it was discovered that you can instead dupe the Pizza Boy mission, which was much faster and easier than duping the party. This new discovery, and a different route, meant that once again, and for the final time, Vice City was cracked open for a short period. Menno took the first record using this new strategy with a 10:26 on June the 21st, L1 Leon got a 9:04 the next day, and Guywith put himself back on top again on July 14th with an 8:48. This record stood for over a year until the ultimate sandbagger himself, Rock24, had this to say on September 5th, 2018.
You took 15 years from me, Sonny, and now I'm gonna make you pay! You still don't get it, do you? I own you, Tommy! Those 15 years were mine to spend. Get him, boys, you never understood a thing!
And that is where the world record for Vice City stands to this day. From Cannibal K9's 1 hour 54 minute speedrun on SDA from all the way back in 2008, to an 8-minute legitimate any percent speedrun of Vice City a decade later. This game has an incredible history, and I hope I did it justice with this video. Before we end, I'd like to mention that the accuracy of this video may not be 100%, as some events are based around runners' recollections. Also, the community has seen world records in the past that have been proven as cheated, so this history is not including the runners at all, as we will never be sure which of these runners had legitimate world records at the time. With that being said, I'd like to thank everyone who has helped me create this video, and of course to you for watching it. See you next time.